Computer vision syndrome is the leading occupational health problem of the 21st century, affecting about 70% of computer users, which is probably about 70% of workers. Increased exposure to blue light from digital devices further exacerbates the problem, and this creates new potential health challenges. So we've invited Dr. Paulo in to discuss the challenges of chronic exposure to blue light. Paulo, screens, they're everywhere, so this is obviously something that is very common, as the introduction says. But specifically, it's been sort of categorized as computer vision syndrome. What is that?
Well, it's called digital eye strain in scientific papers, and it is due to the prolonged and uninterrupted exposure of your vision, your eyes, to computers, to tablets, to cellular phones, as you have described,
Right.
and the consequences that come from that. It is aggravated by poor ambient or environmental lighting, by the incorrect distancing from the source, from the computer, in the
Right.
case of a computer, by incorrect or poor posture, for example. So there are a number of factors that aggravate this irregular and constant exposure to computer screens.
Okay, so it's not just the screen itself, it's other elements around it,
Yes,
sort of the
yes,
ecosystem
yes,
around our
correct,
screens, I guess.
correct.
What are some of the common symptoms that we would be experiencing if we are suffering from this condition?
Well, the common symptoms include blurred vision or double vision,
Right.
okay, dryness or redness of the eye, as well as itchiness or even burning.
Okay.
Okay, those seem to be the sort of 5 common symptoms.
Right. And what causes them? I mean, they're quite different things from each other.
Yes,
So what are the
yes.
causes of this specific thing?
All right, so in terms of biological causes, for example, you will have the fact that if you are concentrated on a screen for prolonged periods of time, you will not blink as often as you normally blink.
Mhm.
So if you don't blink as often, that would lead to dryness. All
Right.
Because your eye is focusing at short distance, so there's greater muscular activity in the eye will require, or the muscles will require, more oxygen and nutrients, so the vessels in the eye will dilate to
Okay.
accommodate a greater flow of blood, and that will lead to redness.
Okay.
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 Then, because again you are focusing at a short distance for long periods of time, the muscle in the eye tends to sort of get stuck. It's almost like a cramp.
Mhm.
Okay, so it does not adjust quickly or well when you stop doing that, and that can lead to double vision, for
Right,
example.
Okay.
So those are some of the causes.
Right. Now, Paulo, I mean, looking at a computer screen or a cell phone screen or whatever it might be, versus looking at a book, I mean, we can read for hours and not suffer from the
Correct.
same consequences.
Correct.
What's the difference there?
Well, there are a number of differences. I think one important one is that the characters in a book that are printed on a page are well defined, the letters, for example. On a computer screen, they are made of pixels. So the edges are not well defined, which means your eye struggles to focus on it on an ongoing basis, because it's sort of blurred all the time as far as your eye is concerned.
Right.
The image,
right.
so it's constantly this focusing, whereas in a book you focus once and it's
Yes,
focused.
Yes.
And this continues to happen again and again. So the other thing as well with computer screens is that your eye will tend subconsciously to want to relax by focusing on a point behind the screen.
Okay.
Okay? And if it can do that, by doing that and returning to the screen multiple times, that also leads to eye fatigue.
Okay, so it's that constant change of
Correct,
distance that you're
correct.
dealing with. Now, Paulo, you talk about this sort of quick movement where your eyes are trying to focus something behind the screen, but I understand that one of the ways to deal with this condition or to help relax your eyes is to actually focus away from the screen for a period of time and come back. Is the difference there that you're doing it consciously and for a prolonged period rather than these quick movements back and forth?
Yes, okay, so that would make sense. That is one of the recommended preventative measures. So our eyes naturally focus at 6 meters,
Okay.
20 feet for the Americans. And that is, imagine the eye muscles are relaxed at that distance.
Right.
So anything shorter or anything greater than that distance, your eye needs to refocus
Okay.
as
okay.
it is.
So what are some of the other techniques that we can use? I mean, obviously, we can't get away from sitting behind screens because it's become so much a part of our lives. But what are some of the things that we can actively do to help just relieve the strain on our eyes?
Well, in terms of computers, the general guidelines are that the screen should be about 40 to 50 centimeters from where you sit.
Okay.
The environmental lighting, here there isn't full agreement. So some people will say that the computer screen should be brighter than your environment so that there is no glare from the environmental lights.
Okay.
Others say it should be as bright. There are ways of measuring all of these things in offices, and they measure it in lux units, and so there is ways of doing that. Then also the Americans recommend a 20-20-20 rule, which means every 20 minutes you stop for 20 seconds and you look 20 feet away, which means 6 meters away.
Okay.
Another recommendation is to stop every 2 hours for 15 minutes completely. Your chair ergonomics plays a role. You know, how good your chair is depends on who you work for.
Or if you bring your own.
Yeah. So these are some of the measures that you can deal with.
And I mean, are the effects of this computer vision syndrome, are they purely vision related, or are there other sort of
So you'll find that people have chronic headaches, for example, all right? And psychological stress is also a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, in other words, people get moody and even anxious,
Right.
some of them. So there are other effects.
Okay. And I mean, can chronic sort of exposure to light from our cellular phones, because this is, we're talking on multiple things here. Computers at work, cellular phones are with us all the time. I mean, is this constant blue light, I mean, as well, what was that doing to us?
All right, so it has been shown, studies have been done that it reduces your memory capacity in terms of recall. Okay, it increases neurotoxins. Okay. So somehow it has an effect on the housekeeping mechanisms in the brain tissue that remove things that must be removed. Okay, so those are very, very important effects of exposure to blue light.
Okay, and I mean, Paulo, blue light, we talk about sleep hygiene and not being on screens before going to bed, things like that. These color filters that we get on phones, do they actually have an impact, or is that just a way for phone manufacturers to keep us on our devices for longer?
Or to keep their bank accounts flowing?
Yeah.
It's a difficult question to answer because I'm not aware of research that conclusively tells us that a way of changing the color of the light or the source of the light, I guess it will have some kind of impact. So we spoke about preventative measures for computers just now. In terms of cellular phones or tablets, for example, the one single most important measure is not to use it in the darkness, so to speak. Okay. When the lights are off, do not sit for extended periods of time looking at your screen, because now the blue light is really having its way. Right.
And I suppose also it's just capturing your eyes completely, because there's nothing else for them to focus on. So Paulo, Similasan has produced a product called Computer Eye Relief, which we've popped into our Real Health Medicine cabinet this week. Is this going to make a big difference to what we're dealing with in terms of the symptoms in our eyes with computer issues?
Yes, it will definitely help. So first of all, Similasan is a Swiss brand. It's been around for over 40 years. It is the number one selling brand in Europe, for example. It is an all-natural homeopathic preparation. Okay, so it's prepared according to homeopathic principles, where they take the certain plant substances and they dilute them, and then dilute the dilution and dilute the dilution again, and so on. Okay, so and it has been therefore used and shown to reduce the symptoms of eye fatigue and eye strain. You know, it is sting-free, so it doesn't sting your eyes. In other words, it has no vasoconstrictors of any kind, so it doesn't reduce the blood flow to your eyes.
Right.
And it can be used for extended periods of time. So from that point of view, it is something that can be tried. Okay. But keeping in mind that the cause of the problem is that you're sitting at the computer for 5 hours non-stop, so to speak.
Right. So we need to be engaging in those other practices that we've spoken about, along with using this as a supportive measure.
If you really need to be, you see, the ultimate solution, obviously, is to work your work at the screen in such a way that you take adequate breaks at adequate times, and if those breaks become more than what you are allowed to take as a break, then some other work must be done during those breaks. So it means reshuffling work.
Yes.
So all of that just seems to be too difficult for most people.
Absolutely.
But those are the real solutions. In the absence of one being able to do that, then this would be a supportive measure.
Okay, fantastic. And Paulo, is this something that is safe for anybody to take, people wearing contact lenses, things like that?
Yes, this is safe for anyone to take.
Okay, great. And where can we find something like this?
I believe it's available in pharmacies and health shops.
Wonderful. Paulo, thank you so much once again for some great insights.
Pleasure.